Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Magic in the Midwest podcast. This is podcast number 30. Ash and I are not even 30 yet, so the podcast is officially older than us.
I'm 29.
That's right.
How old are you? Because you're older than me. No, you're 29, and I'm 24.
Yeah, that's right.
I look a little bit older than that.
Right, a little more mature, a little more,
2020 has aged me a little?
A little bit. I think it's aged all of us a little.
A little.
I've got a little more gray in the beard this year than I have had in previous years.
a little more gray on the top of my head.
Yeah, you do.
I think I do.
Yeah, you know you do.
It's hard to tell, because I have blonde hair, and it's kind of an ashy tone already. But I noticed that there's some highlights at the top, which I have not had done.
Yes.
So I was like, what are these light parts doing all the way
what's going
at the
on?
roots?
What's going on? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Magic in the Midwest podcast number 30. We didn't even introduce ourselves. We just started going off into
Gray
tangents.
hairs.
My name is J.B. Michaels, USA Today best-selling author of many books, 14 books to be exact, and the latest is called The Festival of the Vine. It is out right now.
It's getting great reviews.
It's getting great reviews.
Which is shocking, because you wrote it.
Oh, that's so mean. You know what? It is actually getting really good reviews. It's a very, very fun, perfect fall read, you guys. It's very spooky. It's spooky. It's not too spooky, but it's spooky enough, and it's a lot of fun, and it's just
spooky enough.
Another twisty, turny, fun Mac and Millie mystery.
What's going on with your hair right now?
I don't know. I
need to get a pic and put this on the the gram.
Nope.
The gram.
Nope. And I am joined by my more successful wife,
24-year-old Ashley Michaels.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
What's going on?
I don't know. That was weird.
I'm in a weird mood.
That was weird. Okay, this is going to be a weird podcast. Yes, and we, we just love talking about theme parks, especially the Disney theme parks. And today we're going to also talk about, again, the Universal theme parks and the biggest event that they have every year, which is Halloween Horror Nights. And, thanks for being here today. A big shout out to our Bandcamp subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the Bandcamp. Mm-hmm. And also to those new listeners who've discovered us, welcome. And because we get new listeners every week, which is really kind of exciting.
Somehow we do?
Yeah.
Somehow.
And we just really love that you're here. We would love to hear from you. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever platform you listen to the old podcast. And since it's 30 now.
It is old.
Yeah, 30 potties. 30 potties. I guess that's a weird way to say that. Potties.
Let's workshop that.
Yeah, let's work it. Work it. Okay. So we thought we would kind of go through Ashley's first experience with Halloween Horror Nights, which, to be fair, Ashley was never really like super into Halloween type scare haunted houses events, like before she decided to join us down at Halloween Horror Nights. And the first one we went to was Halloween Horror Nights 2018, which was also Halloween Horror Nights 28.
Well, I mean, yes, JB, as we've mentioned before, went back in, what was it, number 8? You said we, first. Meaning like us together. It was my first time going there in 2018. JB has been there many, many times before that.
Yes. So, so in no particular order, I guess we can wait on that. So, Ash, why don't you just first sort of, I've been there. I'm sort of an HHN veteran. Mm-hmm. There are many others, friends of ours who go, all the time every year, and have gone consecutive years for over a decade. And, keep going and keep going and keep going. But we, our first experience together was in 2018, and it was sort of impromptu. Like, we did not...
It was not planned out, really.
Yeah. It was like about, maybe 3 weeks before we went. that we decided to go, right?
Yeah, it was. 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. So, like JB said, and I know we talked about this in our last podcast about HHN, but just to review, I was never, I like Halloween and I would do the haunted house thing when we were in high school, but it was never really something that I was like super pumped about or, was crazy about by any means. I'm definitely someone that the jump scares, those work very well for me. It was always a running joke. In the last office that I worked at, people would always try and scare me, and it worked, and it was very funny. But anyways, do you want me to go through the whole story, I guess? Our friend Sand, who is sort of a...
Whatever you want.
Like a HHN icon, basically.
He himself is an icon.
Yeah.
Yes.
A very good friend of ours. He was in our wedding, and JB has known Sand for years and years and years. Was in town and started talking about the event as we were driving him back to the airport.
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued by how he was talking about it, and I was like, I want to do that. And we were at a point where our son was, I felt like, old enough that, I felt comfortable leaving him for a weekend with the grandparents or whatever. And we decided to go. Why do you have like a furrowed brow right now? Am I saying something wrong?
No, I've got some chips in my teeth. I'm trying to get it out.
Oh, chips. Okay. So, yeah, we booked our trip, and to be honest, I was not really sure how I would feel about it. But it was just a great experience. From the minute we walked into the parks in the evening, I had the best time. The theming that year was the 80s, which was cool. There was like this stage where they did the Thriller dance, and we can go more into that in a minute. But
AC/DC songs.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. And if you're someone, we had a few people reach out last time we did a recording talking about how they're not really into Halloween, but maybe they'd be interested because of what we were saying. I feel like this is just an event that's super well done. And the reality is it's really only so scary. That's what I think. I mean, it is and it isn't. You're looking at me like...
No.
I mean, here's what I think. It is scary. Like, there are parts of the haunted houses and the scare zones that are scary. But you're also, I mean, take 2020 out of it, right? Because I don't know how things will be moving forward, how things are right now. But normally, I mean, you're just in this huge line with other people, and they just send you through in a giant line. It's not like anyone gets separated from anyone else, or you're by yourself, or it's just you and 3 people you came with. Like, you're kind of just in this giant, long line. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that there aren't scary parts, but it's... You know what I mean? There's limitations there. It kind of keeps it a little bit lighter because of that.
Yes, if you're with your friends, if the atmosphere is fun, and once you, I mean, like Ash said, I mean, obviously it's scary to a degree, right? I mean, reality is all around you when you're going through these things, and it's designed to get you to be scared, to get a good jump scare out of you, and no matter how many times you go through a house, or how prepared you are, or how big of a veteran you are, you're still going to get scared at some point. You start to get used to it, I think, a little bit. Like, you start to sort of get used to the houses a little bit. Yeah. But then something will pop up and scare you again, or there'll be some cool effect that you didn't see one time that you see again this time, and some great showpiece, set piece scare. Because Universal, it's not like there's just a bunch of people standing around. I mean, there's some legit... really cool effects that they pull off, really cool like set pieces that they have done, amazing sets, amazing visuals. I mean, it's well done, from start to finish. It's really good.
And one thing I want to say too is that like one of the houses was the Halloween 4 house, and I screamed and jumped a lot in that house, but mostly we laughed. Because it's one of those things where you jump, you scream maybe, and I don't mean like scream, but like scream, like and then everyone cracks up at how ridiculous you reacted at everything, and it's fun. Yeah, like I just think it's really fun. It's really well done. And immediately I knew that it was something I wanted to do every year.
Right.
I wanted us to go back every year because we had a great time.
Right. And the funny part about us is about me and Ash is, yes, we get scared, right? And we kind of have to
more
prepare,
than JB.
We kind of have to prepare ourselves, right, for some of the houses. But we just both have a blast together. We just like going through it together, you know. And then we get out and we sort of, we want to talk about the
things that you see.
Yeah, things that you see, and kind of give our reviews of them kind of off the cuff, like as soon as we get out. And, it's a great experience. I thought, let's just kind of go through. We actually, when we went into Universal, we went in from MCO, the airport, and we didn't Uber it, I don't think, the first time, right? We just took a cab. We cabbed to Cabana Bay. And look, I might as well give our little thoughts on Cabana Bay. We stayed at Cabana Bay that first time in 2018. What did you think about Cabana? Universal, it's a Universal resort, kind of similar to, I would kind of equate it to a moderate resort at Disney, right? It's like a Caribbean, a Coronado Springs, pop, art of animation, sort of Pop Century type situation. So,
yeah, sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze.
What did you think of Cabana Bay before we?
No, it's themed like kind of like a 60s, right?
60s,
or is it more?
I think it's more 60s.
60s,
yeah, 50s, 60s.
Now, first of all, I'll say that I've never stayed in another Universal resort, so I don't really have a lot to compare it to in that regard. But I thought the hotel was nice. I liked the theme. I liked the colors. Our room was big. I thought we had a big room.
Well, technically, I think Cabana Bay is like the family suites resort.
So, are all the rooms like that?
They're mostly like that.
Okay, because it felt like bigger. There was sort of like this partition. So there were two double beds or queen beds, maybe.
I think they were
queen. And then there was like a little partition and then like a sitting area with a TV that was decent size. Yeah, actually. Yeah. So, I thought it was nice. I felt like we were a little confused at how to get around in there, but we weren't there very long.
Right, we weren't really around it.
But I think that it's a good option.
Yeah.
If you're looking to stay on property.
Yeah. You can, some transportation tips. If you don't want to take those Universal buses when staying at Cabana Bay, which they provide free bus service, from City Walk back to your hotel and then from the hotel back to City Walk, which is one distinct disadvantage that I think Universal has. Is that when you ride a bus, you're not getting bused to a theme park. You're getting bused to City Walk. You're not. Yeah. You'll never get dropped off right in front of Islands of Adventure.
Still a lot of walking,
which is what Disney does. Disney drops you right in front of the theme park, and then you walk in. Except for Magic Kingdom, you got to go to like the Transportation and Ticket Center, but that's the only park where you're not like literally on the curb of the park, basically.
Yeah.
So one disadvantage is to like go. That's sort of like you still have a long way to go after you get off the bus and into City Walk. Then you've got to make it all the way over to Studios or Islands through City Walk. Now you could cheat. And you could walk from Cabana Bay over to Sapphire Falls, which is like right next to it. Mm-hmm. And you could take a boat over to City Walk, and then you're much closer to the parks.
Yeah, which we did that.
A boat, which we did that. Yeah.
I also want to do. I know but last year, 2019, we stayed off property actually, but meaning it wasn't a Universal resort, but we actually were
Hyatt
like
Regency or Hyatt Place.
What was much closer.
It was great.
So we should talk about that real quick as an option.
There is also another option you could do. Like, there's plenty of resorts outside of Universal. There are some really great resorts on Universal property. If you're gonna stay at Universal, if you have the money, stay at like one of the originals, which is like Royal Pacific, Hard Rock, or Portofino Bay.
Hard Rock is right there.
Hard Rock is literally right there.
You're going to be paying a pretty penny.
You pay. It's their deluxe resorts basically, and obviously they're the closest proximity to the parks. But there are a bunch of options just outside of Universal Studios property. And we stayed at the Hyatt Place, which was awesome. Huge room. The room was huge.
It was huge.
It was like a double room. It was big.
Yeah, there's like a sectional couch.
Yeah.
And then like a little bar, refrigerator, mini bar area.
Yeah,
and then,
huge.
Yeah.
And then it had a free, not free, but it had a breakfast service that basically like you could include in your night.
For a little bit of a higher price.
Rate.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even that big of a bump.
It was like
totally
sort of
worth
like a
it.
no-brainer.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is a really great thing. And what you basically do then is you just Uber or Lyft.
What we did was Uber or Lyft over to
Hard Rock. And then walk to the parks that way. Because you're much closer. And you don't have to go through City Walk.
And at the time, I mean, it was like a $4
surcharge.
Right, which if you split between like three
people,
but now they've added.
Now, because so many people were doing that, now Uber and Lyft or Universal charges you like $5 just to do that. And then you have to pay for the ride. So you have to
you think about it though, I mean, if you have
still worth it.
I think still worth it. Yeah. Because it was like, I mean, we were back to our hotel like immediately.
Well, the hustle and the bustle of going through all of the crowds, the dearth of crowds emptying out of Universal City Walk. You just avoid all of that.
Well, and I will say that when we did take the buses the year before, remember when we tried to leave?
Oh my gosh, it was a disaster.
It was like,
I didn't know where the bus was.
No signs, no one. Yeah. You know, it was very unclear.
Yes,
what we were supposed to do. It was very unclear.
And then I went to the wrong side, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm going to a different spot." I'm like, "Well, where am I supposed to go?" You know what it was?
We actually found the bus that was going back to our resort.
Yeah,
but all the same. So for Disney and at least how I think it works is there's a few buses that are designated just going like from whatever hotel you're staying at to that one park, Epcot, and then circling back. So we found one that said Cabana Bay, but it was only driving from Cabana Bay to the parks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we had to find the one that was going from the parks to Cabana Bay, and I'm like, why wouldn't that be the same bus?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, this is the drop off. And I was like, so.
Yeah, I know. I was so confused.
It was very weird.
So if you want to avoid all of that, and you're staying off property, then just, honestly walk right over to like Hard Rock and just get an Uber or Lyft right from there. Have them pick you up. Pay that $5 surcharge and then the cost of the ride and just go back to the Hyatt.
The reality is that the amount that you're paying for the rides to and from the park, probably it's still less money than staying at Cabana Bay.
True.
If you're including the price of the hotel.
Right,
because Hyatt Place was not expensive.
No, it wasn't. So, or if you're going to stay on property, I'll be honest. If you're going to stay on property, Royal Pacific, Hard Rock, Portofino, those are the best ones to stay at. Yes, they're more expensive, but you have the access to the boat, and the boat is a big game changer. Mm-hmm. Sapphire Falls also has access to the boat, so that's another one where you could. But the only difference is that Royal Pack, you could walk back if you wanted to. It's a little bit of a walk, but you could walk back to Royal Pacific, and you could walk back to Hard Rock.
See, those would always be my picks then.
Right. So some options for you. Just some universal experience type options, right? Because Universal is great, but it's also a little bit of a different animal when it comes to just transportation and like where you want to stay. Obviously, Universal over the last few years has they're opening up these different levels of resorts because like Disney, they want you to stay at their resorts. Like they just opened up the ones that are, seaside, surfside, and surfside, and what's the other one? So those are like their deluxe resorts, which are basically just towers. But you have to take the bus in to City Walk. You're not getting dropped off right by a park. So there are some major things to think about there. So without further ado, why don't we talk about the Halloween Horror Nights lineup of houses, and Ash and I will kind of give our impressions, and maybe we can review them if we want, and just sort of go through all of them. So this was the first year, I believe, that they had 10 houses.
Oh, was it?
This is the first year they had 10.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Okay, so why don't we go through the list? I'm just going to list them off first, and then we'll go into deeper dive into each one, one by one. So at number 10, we've got The Horrors of Blumhouse, which this was a strange house, but I don't want to get into it quite yet. The Horrors of Blumhouse. Number 9 is Scary Tales, Deadly Ever After. Then we have number 8. I'm going in, obviously, descending order. 8 is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Then there's Carnival Graveyard, Rest in Pieces, which is 7. Number 6 is Trick or Treat. Number 5 is Slaughter Cinema. Number 4 is Seeds of Extinction. Number 3 is Netflix's Stranger Things, the very first iteration of that. And number 2 is Dead Exposure Patient Zero. And then, of course, number 1 is Poltergeist. So, pretty neato. All right, Ash, why don't we just talk about... what do you want to talk about first?
Well, should we just go in order?
All right, let's just do from this list that I have brought up.
The Horrors of Blumhouse would be first, right?
Sure, we could do that first.
Which was a split between...
Happy Death Day and The Purge Anarchy.
Okay, so...
Or The First Purge, or whatever.
This house felt like it was put together at the last minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could tell as you were walking through, I thought, which was sort of a disappointment for me, not so much on the side of The Purge. I'm not huge into those movies, but I love Happy Death Day, 1 and 2, both very good.
We gotta watch 2. We've had it.
Yeah.
We've had the movie. We really need to watch it. It's really good. Totally. Holy cow, it's good.
Now, I think they could have done a better job, obviously, but I will say that the plot of that movie also kind of works against itself in this situation. You know, the movie tends to... It's kind of like Groundhog's Day.
Right.
You know, Groundhog's Day?
Groundhog Day.
Hog Day. Hogs Day.
Groundhog Day.
Like, what am I saying?
Groundhog's Day.
Groundhogs.
You got a bunch of hogs coming out of the ground.
Sound right. Yes. So, she this doesn't really give away a lot, but, she kind of wakes up and does the same day over and over and over again, and we kind of see her do the same thing over and over again. So basically, we're just walking through and seeing her in the dorm room.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah.
And over and over and over. Yes. And it was like a bunch of different people that didn't look like her back to back.
Yeah.
Or look like each other.
No.
It would be a tough one to pull off. They could have done some better things with it, but they didn't.
No.
So, you just felt like you were walking into a dorm room and there was a blonde, like, laying in the bed. And
it was a little strange.
That was kind of it. Like, sometimes she was up.
Yeah.
And then that was that.
Yeah, you could tell it was weird because they called it The Horrors of Blumhouse, so it's supposed to be sort of like an anthology of like, and the two main things, of course, like we've already said, were Happy Death Day, The Purge. It just felt strange.
Well, and then The Purge was just a bunch of people with masks on, with like the music going brrr, and someone stepping out in front of you.
Really stupid.
But that was it. Like, I didn't feel like there was a lot to look at.
It was a very, very small house. It was one of the very small tents.
Yeah.
Which is over by the Men in Black alien attack.
That's my favorite ride.
Bill and Ted's, the Bill and Ted Stadium, the Fear Factor. So that one, not quite.
First year that they had 10 houses, and you felt like this was like, let's make a 10.
Yeah, they should have just, but they want, for the marketing, it's 10 houses, so they slapped it together. It felt like slapped together.
And it just felt slapped together.
So it's funny, we're starting with the worst one. That was the absolute worst one.
After we're saying, great event.
Great event. This was crappy. No, but that one was not great. So, all right, and then we have Scary Tales, Deadly Ever After, which is a really cool concept. Basically just takes all of the fairy tales and just, of course, just makes them twisted. We got like the Wicked Witch and,
Hansel and Gretel.
From Wizard of Oz, Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to remember everything.
The Hunchback, I think, was in there. Or some, no, not the Hunchback.
What's his name?
Humpty Dumpty. It was it is one heck of a good, I really liked Scary Tales a lot.
Scary Tales was probably my favorite original house that year.
Yeah, Scary Tales was really a lot of fun, and it was marked by this amazing, this is one of the cool things about Horror Nights. There was a witch literally flying over your head, jumping out at you, flying basically on a broom. Trying to get you, and then of course they do it again at the end.
Which he shoots out at you. Yeah. It's crazy.
Basically, I think the story, this is technically an original concept for Universal. Whereas the one we talked about before was from a movie, the Blumhouse production movies. This one, Universal kind of put together on their own, and basically the story was the Wicked Witch, basically, what would happen if the Wicked Witch took over and used her awful dark magic on all of the fairy tales in the land. And basically, the one thing that I really remember about this is super gross, was you saw Rapunzel peek her head out, and she was scalped.
Yeah.
And her head was all gooey and bloody.
Yeah, because it was her hair was sort of attacking her, kind of, and then was she had to rip it off her own head.
Yeah, it was messed up. But it was awesome.
But there, what?
Three Little Pigs, there's a section of that was also gross, but it was still fun.
I don't know if we need to go more.
Yeah, we're not going to go into too much detail gore-wise.
And not every house is gory. No. And there wasn't a ton of gore. I mean, there were some scenes where there were some, but it was more the concepts for this were supposed to be scary.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it was a cool house, and there was a lot to look at and take in, and they had some really cool effects.
Yeah, great effects. The set design in this house was fantastic. It was just really cool. Each scene was given so much detail. Mm-hmm. Each fairy tale, you recognized it because it was, you knew, just from the stories. So it was really cool. It was a neat house. It was gross, but also really engaging at the same time. Okay, then we have we have Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which, of course, Halloween 3 was, Michael Myers was not even in the movie. So that's why Halloween 4 is called The Return of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Halloween 4? This was in the Shrek Theater.
I thought it was a great house. Now, people that know me well or have listened to the podcast or are one on HHN know that I am very afraid of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a really great house. I think it works so well as a house.
Well, here's the weird thing. Ash and I think watched the movie before we went. Mm-hmm. And what's incredible about Horror Nights is that they do faithfully recreate the scenes. When they ever have an IP from a movie, they usually try to do that, and that was definitely, they did that a few times in this particular house. Not the longest house, but man, oh man, was it intense, because Michael Myers is everywhere.
Well, I mean, you just hear that music, or it'd be silence, and then there would just be, darkness, and then there he would be with this huge butcher knife, and stab right in front of your face.
There's a key scene at the end of this movie in an attic, and of course you're in an attic at the end.
Yeah, it kind of takes you through.
Yeah.
The movie, like JB said. So
it's good. It's really good.
That house probably got me the most.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You jumped and were scared the most.
Yes, and I mean, but still laughing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you would.
It's adrenaline and laughter and fun.
Yeah. So a very intense house, and it really was a lot of sound effects and just a bunch of people in Michael Myers costumes, a ton of people in Michael Myers costumes.
And then sometimes he'd be far away from you and do that thing where he tilts his head.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oof. Lots of great work. Great work by the scare actors.
And then you'd be, looking at that and then get scared by another Mike Myers nearby that you weren't even paying attention to because you were looking at the one down the hall.
Yes. Pretty scary.
I still remember vividly.
Yeah, that was good. Universal does know how to distract you.
Yes.
And then scare you.
You know, and you are sometimes like in bigger rooms, and then other times going through this very tiny hallway where you don't have anywhere to like hide or move over, and you don't know which side something's going to happen on. And I mean, it's just fun.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
It is. It's good fun. And then, of course, we've got Carnival Graveyard, Rust in Pieces. And here's an interesting one. This one didn't really scare me that much. I was more just really enthralled with the detail of this particular...
There was a lot of detail.
Yeah. They really did a lot of great... I just remember going through it and not being scared. I was just sort of like enthralled with what I was looking at and the set design and the So,
which is fun too, but I'll be honest, it was the same for me, and it all comes down to what scares you and what you're into. You know what I mean? Which houses you're gonna like, basically.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna like some more than others. And this one wasn't a super favorite of mine, but it did have a ton of detail.
What's cool about it too is that this is a Universal original. Whereas the one Halloween 4, obviously, is from a movie. This one is a Universal original, which I always really...
It's fun to see
I'm
those.
I'm partial to those, because I know what to expect in the other ones, a little bit, right? Whereas in the original IP ones, you don't really know. You're like, you're kind of like, oh, cool, I just want to kind of see what they come up with, Obviously, I think just that's part of the fun. Right? So yeah, that one was cool. We actually that was one of the ones we toured that weekend before. We do this, we've done this daytime tour where you get to go through at least 3 different houses. So, I mean, you could go into more if you want. But you could go on these tours that bring you through the houses, and that was one of them. Okay, then we have Trick or Treat from the movie Trick or Treat by Mike Flanagan. Not that long ago, a few years ago. The guy with that kind of creepy guy with the sack head, like he's got a pumpkin sack on his head. Yeah. What did you think of Trick or Treat?
I thought it was good. To be honest, I feel like it was one of the earlier houses we did. Or, I'll also say real quick that the first year I went, you're kind of getting a grasp for how it goes and what the houses are like. So I feel like I picked up on less details because it was more adrenaline and more, you know what I mean? Like last year when we went, I kind of knew the deal. I knew what to expect. And I felt like even the first time in each house, I could pick up on more because I kind of knew what I was getting into. But this was the first house that I sort of realized as it was happening that like the material that we were walking on would change depending on what we were supposed to be doing, quote unquote. So like if you were on the roof, you might notice that all of a sudden there's like shingles
beneath your feet.
Yeah. And I kind of was realizing that, and I just remember thinking in that house that happened, and that was really cool. Yeah. So Trick or Treat, is a cool like horror anthology film where it has like a bunch of short stories basically in one movie. Well, and we had watched the movie, but I didn't really remember a ton about it, to be honest. Yeah, but that thing was like, that little thing is creepy though.
Yeah. It's just this like little, a little guy who has this creepy sack on his face that he just sort of mask on.
But they would have like, the thing is that little dude doesn't creep you out. Like they had people playing him that would sort of just like step out in front of you, but it just didn't really scare me because he just seemed
there was a cool bus crash scene.
See, I don't even remember.
That was like near the end, and that was cool. Like again, this was another one where I wasn't super scared, but I really appreciated the detail in the bus crash scene. Like it was really neat. And then there's this another one called Slaughter Cinema, which was a totally like cheesy, over the top, like 80s sci-fi horror films. Like a bunch of different concepts of horror films that kind of like a B movie version of a house.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. I thought this was actually really fun. It was. I really enjoyed going through it and like trying to figure out which genre they were talking about and lampooning in that particular scene. I thought it was really fun. They had this like alien scene and this like ghoulies type critters type things, and like the big Yetis and stuff at some point when you walk through.
I just remember being in that room where they had it wasn't a bunch of people, I don't think. I think only a few of them were people.
Yeah.
But like people standing with like these black robes on, like looking down, and you know that one of them's going to move, but you don't know which one.
That was cool.
You're like,
yeah, that was neat too. Yeah. That was neat. It was a really fun one. Slaughter Cinema. Really, it was tongue in cheek, and people. I think I just really enjoyed it. I thought that one was super fun. I enjoyed the because I love movies, obviously, but I just enjoyed the different things that they came up with. And then, of course, that was an original house, and then another original house was Seeds of Extinction.
I really like Seeds of Extinction.
Yeah, it was really neat one where basically Mother Nature has overtaken the planet and reclaimed it, basically. And all around us is like a post-apocalyptic, the plants have basically taken over.
You know what I thought of?
Yeah.
This is going to date me past 29.
Right.
But I kept thinking of like Super Mario Brothers, where like the plants, plants that come up the tunnels. Like that's what I kept thinking of when we were in there.
That's funny. I did not know that.
The plants have come alive.
The plants have come alive.
Yeah. But I really, really enjoyed this house. And I don't know if it was just because of basically the theme allowed it to be what it was, but it was really easy for the scare actors to hide and kind of.
Oh my gosh, because you didn't know where.
Yeah, like
you didn't know where anything was.
And it was more silly, like, right? How afraid of you are you of,
a plant?
Of a plant? But it still was like you had no idea because there was like grass and green stuff covering the walls, and then all of a sudden this thing would move, and it was like someone that was part of the wall.
Yeah.
So they could hide right in front of you, like in plain sight. So I felt like the scares were really fun, and you weren't like deathly afraid of a plant coming at you. So,
but there again, I remember there being lots of cool effects in this one. Like the air is supposed to be just humans can't breathe it or something, but plants are able to still live. And like there was this wind. Like huge wind effects and
they had like this van out front that was covered in plants and
then you went in and there was this one scene where a plane crashes, and like they kind of like did the music, like the sound effects for that, and then you get to the point where you see the plane crash, and the wreckage everywhere, and like you're walking through and there's these little nasty little buggers trying to bite you, and it was neat. It was a cool one. I thought it was really cool. Lots of really a great concept, I thought. And then, of course, the big promotional push for this year in 2018 was Netflix's Stranger Things, right? They really, obviously, Universal has nothing to do with Stranger Things. They're Netflix, it's a Netflix original. Production. So Netflix and Universal got together and they're like, can we please, can we make a house based on Stranger Things? Season 1. Mm-hmm. And boy, oh boy.
They delivered.
It literally was knocked out of the park. Like just knocked out of the park. It was so good. It was so good.
Well, and I feel like, you worry when something comes like that, such a big phenomenon. Everyone was watching Stranger Things. Everybody loved it. Were they going to acquire this IP and just sort of phone it in and use it? But they did not. We had the best time in that house. And we had a really good experience going through it because we hit every scare.
We did.
The first time we went through.
Yes, we hit every scare. And actually, I think it was our second time we hit every scare.
The second time.
The first time we went through it, it was still great. But the second time is the one I led. I'm not taking credit for this. It was just by chance. But literally, we literally hit every single scare.
Because what happens sometimes, guys, is if the
timing's a little bit off.
Yeah, the timing can be off. Like the party that's right in front of you. Because it's not like they're really spaced out. At least, in years prior. And you can see the party in front of you get like a scare, and then they either won't do it to you or they do, and you've already seen it.
Yeah.
But we literally got every single one. And the lady that played Joyce, right?
Yeah.
The mom.
Yeah.
Looked so like her.
That was something that we asked about or were told about on the tour.
Right.
They face mapped all of these people, these actors who came in, to match the actual actresses. Holy cow. Like the actors they had, the scare actors they had inside the house looked like the main actors.
They did.
Like,
11 looked really cool.
It was nuts.
Looked really good. Yeah.
Will basically looked the same. It was played, Will was played by a female.
Right.
In the house.
Yeah.
Like you said, Joyce, Winona Ryder's character, when we walked into the house with the light bulbs and the sign.
Yeah, the letters,
it was like she's out,
she's
she's
like
in the corner. It was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing how much this looks like. Like actually the entire cast, they really did a pretty good job.
They did. You knew who you were looking at, who was in the scene.
Really fun. And then of course they had Barb, poor Barb.
Oh,
Barb's in there. Yeah. Sad, but she's in there. But it was a really fun. If you love the show Stranger Things, this was fantastic. I hope that they can bring it back. Honestly, I would just like to go through it again.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it'll ever be the same, but it was really, really good. It was long, too.
It was a big house. It was a big house.
Yeah.
I think the next year they did seasons 2 and 3 in that same space,
it was
right?
not as well executed. No. Because I feel like, again, they shoehorned 3 in. When they should have maybe just chilled.
And I wasn't super thrilled with 3, that big thing at the end. A lot of people raved about it, and I was really disappointed.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't even realize it was there. And then I was like, oh,
the scale was really strange. It was very strange. It was strange.
Yes. So that was excellent. And then, of course, there's this other one called, and we got 2 left, Dead Exposure, Patient Zero.
Okay, now... This was not a favorite of mine.
I did not like it at all.
And we're talking about how great the event is, but
this one I didn't like.
There was
most
just
of the things we've liked.
This was like a very intense house. Now, if you go or you've been before, you know that some are more intense, some are less intense, and just depends on gore and that type of thing. This was like heavy strobe lights.
That's
flashing.
The issue I had.
I couldn't even it was more just like super in your face, and I couldn't really. The whole point was that it just. Like, you couldn't notice any detail or what was going on. It was chaos.
Yes, it was super annoying. Oh, I'm just going to say it.
I kind of got, like, a headache. I was just like, oh my gosh.
It was sensory overload.
Yeah, it was too much.
And it just wasn't, that was not exciting. It was just not, I was like, can we just be through this? That was the one I really, really did
I think
not
I
like.
ended up, because I can kind of be a scaredy cat, but not in a really serious way. I mean, I get through the houses and everything's fine, but I also don't want to be one of those people that closes my eyes because I want to see it,
Yeah.
But I had to, because like the lights, it was just too much. I was like, let's get out of here.
I'm with you. It was one of the, honestly, when they...
Like, I remember like someone popping out at me and I was just sort of like,
when they,
you can't even tell.
When they have the strobes going and all that stuff, I did not. That was just not cool.
If it's one part, but I mean, it was really loud, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Loud, and there was a strobe and smoke, fog.
Yeah.
It was too much.
And then, lastly, the one we talked about, we did talk about this in one of the other podcasts, the Poltergeist house.
Oh my gosh.
I cannot tell you this one. This one did legit scare me. Mm-hmm. And this one did legit stick with me because I was scared of it. But that was just because I was sensitive to things at that time. But it was a very, really, really good house. I mean, again, it's from a movie, but man, Universal knocked it out of the park. They just
so
knocked
good.
it out of the park.
And it was the first house we went through that year.
Oh, it was
it was intense.
This one had puppetry. Effects, like, I mean, it literally, it is, I mean, again, the face mapping, the mom in Poltergeist looked like the mom, the actress they had, and she was, like, pointing at the door, like, doors, like, oh, gosh, I mean, it's, if you've seen the movie Poltergeist, and it creeped you out, man, oh, man, this movie, this will definitely creep you out. I mean, it's so good. It's such a good... And what was brilliant about the design of this house, again, and I'll say it again, you start in the swimming pool. You start in the backyard of the house. You see the back of the house up high. and then you go through the swimming pool, through the ground where all the graves are, and then into the house. And you immediately go into the kitchen, and you see the steak moving on the counter.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this last time, but the TV is there. Okay, the TV's there. The big scary ghost, the clown, is in there. Like, it was. I mean, almost note perfect.
I remember from walking in standpoint. And like I had no idea what to expect. At that point, that was the first house we went into, my first Halloween Horror Nights event, and you're used to kind of other haunted houses that you've been in. You kind of used to, it's just sort of like rooms and walls, and like you just walk in and you're in a hallway.
Yeah.
This was like we walked in and you really felt like you were outside.
Yeah.
Like, and like it took me a minute, and I'm like, wait a minute, look at the scale of looking up at the house, and then you're like, oh,
yep,
we're in the pool. Like, it was such a cool thing, but it was like all of a sudden the building seemed like so tall, like just the scale of everything. It was amazing how they could do that, and then you'd walk through whatever, and all of a sudden you're in the house. And then everything changes, but and whether we're saying the houses, we've gone through the different houses, they all, no matter what we're saying, I mean, so much effort goes into, a lot of the show scenes. Yeah. And it's, I know they work on the houses sometimes all year or at least half the year. It's amazing what they can do.
It is. So Poltergeist I think, took it for house of that year. Like, absolutely was my...
I don't know.
I think for me, it was my number one house. Stranger Things was a close second, right? Yeah. But, like, definitely Poltergeist was just so... From seeing the movie, from the execution of the actual house, it was intensity from the start. And it was just a blast to go through. It was just like, holy cow. This is just... wow. And then at the end, you hear the little, like, medium that they bring into the house, and you hear her voice say, "This house is clean," and then then you walk out, it's over, but like, holy cow, it's so good. Really great touches.
And we went through all the houses. We didn't even really talk about the scare zones or... No,
we didn't. So that was just really a rundown of the houses. But yeah, I mean, the whole experience, the whole, the 80s theme, again, was really neat. Basically, when you go to Horror Nights, you're going into an atmosphere. It's like, it's a totally different atmosphere, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. Was Chucky that year, the Child's Play Scare Zone? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, so many great things about it. Anything you want to add, Ash, or do you want to talk a little bit more about the atmosphere, or do you want to just, what do you want to do? You tell me.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that I think, like I've said a million times before, it's definitely an event worth checking out. It's not an event for young children.
No.
They advise at least being 13. I would say, depending on your kid, that might even be too young.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely like a party. And we talked about this before, but you can, there's lots of people walking around with drinks.
There's some drunk people.
Yeah. There's drinking in the lines, like they sell alcohol on the lines, and it's basically like a Halloween party for adults.
It is.
That's
a giant
what it feels
Halloween
like.
Party. Yeah.
But it's super fun. And yes, there are like scare zones where there's people with fake chainsaws coming at you, and you do get scared or go, and everyone laughs at you.
Yeah.
But it's fun. There's like, a ton of people walking around. It's not like you're alone on a street.
Yeah.
And someone's chasing you with a chainsaw.
No.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
Like, we had the best time. And there's shows and
there's great snacks.
Restaurants and snacks and it's a fun thing, and I encourage you to check it out. If you're a fan of events that are well done and well worth the money, this is one of those.
Yes.
There are some rides open too.
Yeah. Take a break. Go on a ride. Go on Gringotts. Go on the Mummy. Mm-hmm. Just kind of chill if you want. Just we did a few houses. Why don't we just take a break, get something to eat, or
grab a drink, whatever it is.
Yeah, or then go over to the next go over to a ride and kind of mix up your night. But yeah, I mean,
and like I'm not a huge like we
don't sit here.
Halloween's fun, but I'm not like all about it. But ever since we went, like I follow all these Halloween Horror Night like social media accounts now, and I love looking at what they think the next houses will be for the next year and that type of thing. I mean, I really enjoy it.
Yes, me too. So, all right, well, that was our Halloween Horror Nights 2018 overview episode.
Deep dive
into the first Halloween Horror Nights Ashley has been to. Hopefully, she I thought you did a great job explaining that you were not really like. It would be something you would choose off the bat. You know what I mean? And now you would because you just love it. So yeah, it's a blast.
Totally.
So and then please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, where Stitcher, whatever you guys, wherever you listen to the content, and of course reach out to us, Magic in the Midwest Podcast at gmail.com, and then of course subscribe to get double the episodes. Magic in the Midwest Podcast.bandcamp.com for as little as $3 a month. You can help support the podcast, which really keeps us going, keeps the bills.
Help support our marriage.
Producing this helps support our marriage. Deep papers.
Wait, no, I want to say one more thing too. We know a lot of people that were never fans of haunted houses. And I mean, you think about it, you're in line for the haunted house, that's fun.
Yeah.
There's the adrenaline part.
Scared.
When you're actually in the house, I mean, how long is it? It's a few minutes.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And then you get out, everyone's talking about the house and who got scared and laughing at so-and-so. Yeah. And then, like a lot of it's
an experience.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole experience.
Camaraderie too, right? Mm-hmm. It's you're being there with people you love and having fun.
Yeah.
Just a different type of way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, please rate, review us, subscribe. I think today we're going to do our top. We're going to mix up the Bandcamp exclusive today. We're going to do some list action.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about our top 5 line cues for a Disney theme park. We're going to have to figure out which one though. So why don't you tune into the Bandcamp exclusive? Thank you everyone for listening. This is JB from the Midwest. See you later.